Apparently, people that listen to this radio show, they know all about my dating life. Welcome back. It's the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Friday. By the way, coming up here in 30 minutes, live press conference, UNLV introducing their new football coach, Marcus Arroyo. We got Chris Wynn down there, correspondent, going to be covering that for us. So we will do our best to cover that live for you. But, joining us on the line now, this guy is extremely funny. He might call me a snowflake. I don't know. But, of course, one of the reasons why he's in town is for the NFR Rodeo. You see a lot of cowboys in town for that. Actually, I've been to the rodeo, too, at the Thomas and Mack. It is a lot of fun. This guy's been around for a long time. He's been labeled by CNN as the pickup pundit, and he's appeared and provided commentary. Fox News, MSN, A&E, MSNBC, and a very, very funny guy. His name is Chad Prather, and before we get him on the line, I want to play a little parody song, which I think is very funny that he wrote. This is an anti-snowflake song that he wrote, a parody from a Garth Brooks song. Go ahead and play that for us.
I've got friends in Satan's spaces. If you don't go with us, then you must be racist. That's our catchphrase. Where's my latte? Come on in and let's get cozy. Showing off participation.
That's very funny. I find that very funny. I actually do. And this guy joining us right now on the line, he's a ton of laughs. Chad Prather. Chad, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good morning. Good to talk to you guys.
So I got to say that song is absolutely hilarious. Number one, let me just start there. So something is going to tell me that you are not a liberal. Am I correct in making that assumption?
No, yeah. It's a reasonably safe assumption at that point. Yeah. And it's funny to me how, if anything, we put that song out, I guess it was probably 2016, so here we are 3 years on, 4 years later, and the song is still relevant today, maybe more relevant now than it was even then. And it's pretty interesting to watch the meltdown that happens and how sensitive people have become. And for me, it's humorous. I kind of love poking the bear and stirring the pot and getting that conversation started. It's a lot of fun.
I'm the same way, although I maybe be on the other side. I'm not really a Democrat, but I like to go after people on the extreme right that are Donald Trump supporters. So I guess you and I, but you are right in one thing, and you take advantage of that in a good way with your comedy. People are so damn sensitive. Can I give you and you know what? I'll give you JD. Who's the guy we had on yesterday? The puppeteer, the ventriloquist. I forgot his name.
Terry Fader.
How did I forget his name? So Terry Fader, I don't know if you know who Terry is, Chad, but Terry is a comedian, a great ventriloquist. So what you're talking about, he had a Trump puppet, and he had to remove that Trump puppet from his show because people were getting angry. And that's got to bother people like you. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Because whether you're making fun of Obama or Trump, I don't care. You guys are comedians. You're there to make people laugh, right?
Yeah, in this day and age, and as a guy who leans conservative, I make fun of Trump. I make fun of Trump on stage. I've watched people get upset about that. If you can't laugh at Donald Trump, we were just sitting here we were having a conversation. I said, one day aliens are going to invade our planet, and they're going to dig up our Twitter records, and they're going to say, "Oh, look at that! They took a washed-up game show host and made him their king." If you can't look at that and laugh at the idea of Donald Trump sitting naked on a toilet in the White House with his Speedo tan line, tweeting out, setting the news cycle for the day, I'm just thankful Donald Trump doesn't drink alcohol. Can you imagine a drunk Trump? Don Jr. would be up for Supreme Court. He'd be absolutely talking about back when Chuck
a drunk Trump
wait tables at Marco Polo, my resort Marco Polo. Thank God the guy doesn't drink alcohol. It would be horrendous. He's bad enough as it is.
I assumed that Donald.
Yeah,
I assumed that Donald Trump was always drunk to begin with, so I didn't know he drank alcohol. But okay, so
in the blood, man.
Yeah, so talk to me, if you may, Chad, about some of the biggest liberals out there, politicians that you dislike that you'd like to share with us.
Well, So, for instance, you're watching this impeachment stuff, and really this is just an ego thing on display on both sides, and it's frustrating.
I agree.
And I like to believe that if the roles were reversed, that I would be upset. I would be livid. If I felt like I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I've never registered with a political party. Try to be a free thinker. I'm pretty socially liberal. I'm pretty fiscally conservative. I try to look at things from the perspective of if the upset with what I see going on. So, you know, I love to make fun of the Nancy Pelosi. Just ridiculous. She's so easy, you know, you can move the cheese around and she spit all over you while she's praying for the president. But I like that she's had so many facelifts. She came back after the last break, and the eyebrows were all the way up at her scalp. I mean, it was crazy. This woman's worth $120 million. She should be able to afford better plastic. That dimple in her chin used to be her navel. I mean, she is pulled so tight. And so I look at all of these folks out there, the OcasioCortezes. Jussie Smollett has created more jobs than Ocasio-Cortez. And not only were they black, they were immigrants. So, I mean, it's funny to see this. I don't dislike any of them. I mean, I can make fun of Mitch McConnell. I can make fun of Lindsey Graham. But, you know, you see Jerry Nadler walking down the hall, and this guy looks like one of Terry Fader's puppets. 4 foot nothing. He's got his pants are under his chin. It's ridiculous to see these guys. They're parodies of themselves. So I've always said if Washington, D.C. is going to write the jokes, I'm gonna tell them, and they certainly do. And who would have thought we're living in this day and age that social media has created what it has, and ultimately we wind up with a Trump presidency, which is so anti-establishment on every side. And I will say, like, I don't feel like Trump is far right. I feel like Trump, if anything, is a little bit left of center in his politics. I think he's pro-American. And what's been interesting, does he communicate that well? No, of course not. But what's been interesting is how far polarizing people have become, trying to distance themselves from anything right or left. You know, I flew to Vegas yesterday on an airplane, and thank God they let me sit in the plane, not out on the wing. And I tell people all the time, if you want to live out on the wings, it's a dangerous place.
It is.
It is. Get back in, you know, the life, if you got one big right wing on the bird, if you got one big left wing, that's not a healthy bird. This bird's not going anywhere. Get back into the body of the bird where the muscle and the heartbeat and the cowboy hat is.
I like that. I might steal that. Steal that.
That's
from
a little
you.
too good. So we've had a pretty spirited debate for a couple of months now about who in politics right now, who looks like they are on meth. And my choice is Nancy Pelosi, and Brian chooses Kellyanne Conway. I mean, where do you go with this, Chad?
Yeah, they really are caricatures of themselves. Both of them are, and then factor in some of these folks that are out there. When you watch them, like Nancy is so fun because, like, I don't even think the woman is actually drunk, but she is the drunkest looking non-drunk that I've ever seen. and like whatever she's on, I want some. I really do want some. But Kellyanne Conway, you mentioned her. Can you imagine living in that marriage? You've got George Conway, who's very publicly just chastising his wife and Trump and going after him. And, like, somehow these people managed to live together. Like, I can remember when, what was our friend down from, what was his name that was married to the conservative, our Cajun friend down from Louisiana?
I'm not sure.
James Carville?
Yeah, James Carville. And, of course, you know, but they were friendly about their in-marriage bickering back and forth, you know, their political differences. George and Kellyanne Conway, I mean, this thing is a nightmare.
It really is.
It almost. I mean, I'm married, and I know what it's like at home when you've got a disagreement. It almost has to be fake. If it's not, I mean, it has to be fake. If not, the marriage is going to be done in probably a month, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I went to couples therapy years ago. My wife thought it would be a good idea, like we were missing out on something. And so we went, but the couples therapist, this is how I knew I was the smartest guy in the room. Couples therapist looked at me and said, I want you to look at your wife dead in the eyes, and I want you to tell her that I want you to tell her something she's done in your marriage that you didn't like, that she doesn't know she did. And I was like, you got to be out of your freaking mind. Like, there's no, like, if you're calling me crazy, absolutely not. There's no way. So this has got to be a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're just joining us, we are speaking with the cowboy comedian himself, Chad Prather. He's actually going to be performing tonight, if I'm correct, at Treasure Island at 10 p.m. That's a great place to see a show. The one thing I really do appreciate about you, Chad, and I think there's too many comedians that are afraid to do what you do, and that is be politically incorrect. You know, you don't have to agree with Bill Maher, and I would imagine you probably disagree with a lot about what Bill Maher says, but I've always appreciated him because, you know, he says things that maybe some others would be afraid to say, even on CNN or MSNBC. And you do it for a living, just like Bill does. He goes up there and does stand up from the left point of view. You do there and go up stand up maybe from the right point of view. But you're everybody's no holds barred, right? You'll make fun of anybody.
Yeah, and that's why stereotypes exist. They're built in fact and truth. They've got a foundation there. I have a lot of respect for Bill, because of his honesty in that regard, and he's a funny guy, and I've never disrespected him in that regard. And you take guys like the late George Carlin, who was a huge influence on me. I can't say that in terms of worldview, he and I probably would have agreed on a lot of things, but gosh, what a funny guy. And in modern day, Jim Jefferies, who comes in and will just go off on the Second Amendment and the Americans' love for guns, and I wouldn't agree with him on so much of his policy.
But he's talented.
His comedy is hilarious.
Right. Isn't that what it's all about?
You can separate your convictions with what's funny, the convictions from comedy, and just hold that mirror up to yourself, look at yourself, and enjoy it. And that's hard for people to do these days.
Yeah, I did notice, though, I have to mention this because you mentioned Ocasio-Cortez. We have actually a cardboard cutout in studio of Ocasio. I noticed you didn't mention any. I do like the way she looks. I do notice you didn't go after her looks like you did Nancy Pelosi. Am I wrong in assuming that?
No, she's a smoke show. And we have an ongoing thing on my podcast, the Chad Prather Show, which airs nightly. You can find it on YouTube. Just search out Chad Prather or wherever podcasts are offered. But we go Monday through Thursday night. We have an ongoing thing, hot or not, with that. And OcasioCortez, Alexander, she usually comes out hot. And I think it was the Boston College dance video that really pushed it over the top on that. Any red-blooded American male or female, if that's your persuasion, I don't care, that looks at that video and says, "No, she doesn't look good," you're lying. I'll say to my Trump, you're lying.
Okay, so be honest with me, Chad. If somebody offered you a large sum of money, say $100,000, and you had to spend a night with Hillary Clinton, would you do it?
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Would you really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Hillary, yeah, golly. I mean, I'd give her something she hadn't had in a long time.
Have you ever?
I'm just kidding. Let's leave in my mind.
Have you ever?
I'm an eternal optimist here. I'm assuming you are as well. If you're going to accept this $100,000 challenge, what do you think is Hillary Clinton's best feature?
I think it's the colostomy bag that she's hiding under the moon. So we're doing it's just a whole different access there. We're doing Memo Watch on my podcast. So there's the debate right now: is Hillary Clinton going to run again in 2020? I personally think she's going to last minute jump in there.
I agree with that 100%.
A little debacle. So we're calling it Memo Watch. As long as she's wearing the muumuus, she was out doing this stuff everywhere she went. She was wearing this giant quilt or whatever it was. But when the pantsuits come out, it's serious Hillary.
Right.
What do you make of those?
You're seeing her in the pantsuits, and I'm telling you, she was on Stern last week, and forget the fact that Trump's this huge misogynist, but she's on Howard Stern, who just wrote a book called Comes Again, and she's on the epitome of misogyny on the Stern show. But we'll let that hypocrisy die out. With all due respect to
But hold on, I a little bit disagree with you on this.
I thought you did great on that.
I thought we saw a side of Hillary Clinton on the Howard Stern show that perhaps we've never seen before. She was actually not.
But that's not. You did, but it's not because of Hillary. It's because of Howard.
I agree.
I mean, Howard is interviewer par excellence. There's none better than Howard.
I agree.
There really is. And all the stuff aside that people want to complain about with the misogyny, and of course we all know Howard Stern. He is a free thinker and certainly has no filter. But I believe that Howard has the ability to bring things out. He very much humanized her in a way that is virtually like she can't do that for herself, and I think that's been the problem with Hillary. I believe Hillary is an extremely intelligent woman. I believe she's an extremely accomplished woman. She became somewhat, as many do, a political chameleon when it came time to get elected. And I think that it intimidated a lot of people, and it made her unrelatable. Howard was able in that interview to make her seem, flesh and blood. Because I don't think that's, in general, I don't think that's how people view her in many ways.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. And by the way, you're right. One of the reasons why I got into radio was because of Howard Stern. I agree with you. I think he's one of the best in the business at interviewing people. But you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, I think Hillary made a huge mistake by not doing the Howard Stern show in 2016 and waiting until now. So let me ask you this. You've been on, left-wing networks, right-wing networks, which I love that about you. I think that politicians need to do more of that. I think liberals need to go on Fox News. I think more right-wingers need to go on CNN and MSNBC. I think it'll help them more than hurt them, no?
No, I agree. I think that our founding fathers established a system of government whereby we could disagree and discuss and debate and dialogue, and even in the middle of it, still come back with this arbitrary, objective document called the Constitution and find some common ground there. You go back to the Jefferson-Madison debates. You go back to the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Our country's founded on debate. We're supposed to disagree. And we've gotten to a point now where we're so divided that we can't just say, okay, I disagree with you. We have to take it personally, and then it gets into labeling and the name-calling and the vitriol. I want to have conversations that are filled with grace and graciousness where we accept each other because, let's face it, I don't determine who you are based on your political viewpoint. I'm going to love you unconditionally and until you give me some reason that I don't need to be a part of your life. And
of course.
I'm just going to choose to peacefully walk away if I can't make that happen. Unfortunately, those kind of things happen. But no, I approach everybody with this idea. Well, first of all, you have to be secure in yourself, right? Because so many people find their identity in their labels or what wing they're riding on, like, back to the analogy of a bird. Stop doing that. You live out in the extremes, out on the tips of the wing, you're going to be those feathers that get shed off into the dustbin of history. Nobody's going to remember you. You become irrelevant.
Right.
It's the heartbeat. Get back in towards the heartbeat, the muscle, the sinew, the vision, the heart of the bird.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what, Chad. You make a lot of sense, man, and you're also an extremely talented.
Chad, a little too much sense.
Yeah, and
I'm kind of freaked out right now.
How smart I am.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. You're an extremely talented and funny guy. I recommend anybody check you out tonight. It's going to be at Treasure Island, which is a great place to see a comedy show. Show starts at 10 p.m. There are still tickets available. Chad, I really do appreciate you taking some time to join us. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
You bet, guys.
Thanks a lot, Chad. And for me, it's her cankles.
There you go.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Chad. Have a good one. There you go. That's Chad Prather, very, very funny comedian, making fun of both sides of the aisle. I appreciate that. I tend to do that a little bit as well, but he seems to be a little funnier than me. Really smart guy.
I really liked his take on Nancy Pelosi.
I like his take on everything.
That was great.
I like his take on everything. I agree with everything he said. He's hilarious. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get an update from Chris Wynn. He is out there at UNLV, a press conference about to start here momentarily regarding the new football coach. So we'll take a quick break, be back right after this, catch up with Chris. You are listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.